Welcome to the SPEAKPact podcast, where high-performing speakers and the producers who hire them merge to give you the insider secrets to the lucrative speaking industry. Antoniette Rose, your podcast host and celebrated speaker agent, unveils insider success strategies. Discover a nexus of thought leaders and bookers, maximizing your potential in each and every episode. Your ticket to ultimate speaking success begins right here. Catch the transformative insights waiting for you on the SPEAKPact podcast, hosted by the industry powerhouse herself, Antoniette Rose.
Welcome back to SPEAKPact. I am thrilled that you are here today. We're going to bring you into the exciting world of speaker websites. They are changing, and how your approach to your speaker website really needs to evolve with the changing market. So I've brought an expert to you in this space, and that is Kristin Adkins. Kristin, welcome to the stage.
Hi, I am so excited for our conversation today.
Well, I was looking at the work that you're doing, and I'm going to read a little bit of your bio, but really I want to get into the nitty-gritty. A lot of us know as speakers and as thought leaders and authors and people who are in the public eye that we need to have a presence, right, on LinkedIn and have some sort of landing page or a website. But a lot of times I think people treat their website like a set it and forget it, right? I got it done. I spent whatever money, right? And it's done. Mm-hmm. And that's not my philosophy. And I believe that's not your philosophy. So let's dive into that. You do bring a rare 360-degree perspective to the speaking industry specifically. So I love that you're honed in. You were a speaker booker, and now you're really honing into sites for speakers. So that's kind of a rare combination. And I love that you've decided to devote your expertise to speakers specifically. After years of hiring speakers and stepping onto the stage yourself, you founded Crash Design Company. It's a web design agency dedicated to helping speakers show up with clarity, confidence, and credibility online, all very important. You help thought leaders transform their websites into booking ready assets. And I love the way that you say that, right? We have our speaker assets out there and we just treat them as if they are silverware that you eat with, right? Versus an active, living, breathing thing that needs to evolve with us, right? It's kind of an extension of who you are. And let's say you have a website and a LinkedIn page and maybe a press kit, and they're all speaking a little bit different languages. They're not cohesive. I think that's a real fatal flaw as well. So number one, thank you for being with the SpeakPact audience today and bringing your knowledge to us. What is one of the first things that you would tell, let's say, an advanced speaker who has a nice website, they've got a flashy demo reel, they have a press kit, but maybe they haven't dusted it off and taken a second look at it for a year to 2 years. What would you say to them?
I would say that I think there are meeting planners out there that are passing them up because of that dust. If we're not keeping things updated and, even if it's like fresh new pictures or anything like that, I think meeting planners are going to start thinking that it might not be a priority for you to have a online presence that's like up to date. And so meeting planners are going to see that. And if it feels a little old, especially coming from the last few years that we've all had on this earth, if it doesn't feel like it's post-COVID times or post anything, it's going to be like, is this person really wanting my business? And can I trust them to take care of my audience if they're not even taking care of their own?
It's a really good point, because most of the time that decision maker isn't really caring about the budget. They're caring about their job security, right? And they're not going to gamble on someone who they can't right away identify as they are a serious speaker who is current, who is relevant, who is on it. Mm-hmm. And they're not a gamble for me, right? I can recommend them to the board, or I can go ahead and bring them on, put them in front of our people, and I'm a superhero. There can be no question marks. And I think that website is one piece, critical piece, to the overall ecosystem. So aside from the website, what should the site support? Is it supporting their brand, their press kit, their
Mm.
LinkedIn page? Like talk to me a little bit about the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think your website shouldn't just be a resume. It shouldn't just be, this is where I've worked. Maybe this is where I've spoken. And here's, why I'm so great. Hire me. And then it's done. I think a website really needs to tell the story to the event planner. And that's one of the big mistakes people make is it's all about them. It's, I'm this amazing speaker. I'm incredible. Maybe I've wrote this book or whatever. And it's not really talking about our event planner and how they're feeling about their audience. And so that's where I bring in a lot of my experience of being an event planner, is because I saw a lot of websites and I struggled to find speakers to hire because I was just constantly going through sites and it was either outdated or it looked really bad, or I just couldn't trust the person. And I didn't feel like they thought about my needs. And so when I was hiring for a conference, if somebody was just saying like, I'm a speaker on leadership, I was like, cool, that's great. But can you speak to my audience? And can you like kind of tell a story about what you've done for audiences like mine? Like my specific audience was college students. So it was college leaders. And if somebody was saying that they were in the C-suite of something, I was like, cool, you definitely have leadership experience, but is this going to resonate with 18-year-olds? So where that goes is like, so it's not a resume. You're speaking directly to, who you want to speak to. And I think that if we start honing in on what makes you unique and what makes you different, and then calling out the audiences that you can help specifically, that can turn a flat website into more of a journey for the meeting planner that's going to, write the check. And that's who we're trying to talk to. And then with that, also, there's the tweak of talking to the audience that's in the seats while you're speaking versus the audience that's looking at the website. I think a lot of people, when they are doing their own website, they tend to talk to the people that they're talking to when they're on a stage. And that just doesn't resonate all the time with a meeting
Ooh,
planner.
you just hit on something that I say over and over, and I really haven't heard a guest say. So thank you for touching on this. You're exactly right. Right, your site, even your LinkedIn page to a large degree, your LinkedIn profile, and the content that you put there, should it be speaking to the decision maker, whether it's an event planner or an L&D director for a corporation,
Mhm.
whatever it is, it should be speaking to them. And then your talk speaks to the audience, right? And if you're on a podcast or those kinds of things, you can be talking to sharing your knowledge that actually helps the end user.
Mhm.
However, um, it cannot be a resume, any of it.
It
It
can't.
needs to
And
be a
yeah.
them focus.
Mhm.
This is these are the strategies, these are the solutions to the problem that you're having, not, hey, I'm fabulous and these are my accolades, right? That just gets peppered in.
Mhm.
But if you lead with resume, you're just going to turn off. You've been turned off, right?
Mhm.
Plenty of times as an event planner, Kristen, in your past, I'm sure it started with, I'm fabulous without saying it, right? I don't know, Tony
Oh
Robbins
yeah.
brought me on his, like, that's all good. We need to have that credibility. But I first want to know, what is the problem you're going to solve for my audience? That's what they're coming for. What is the best way to do that when you come to that opening page without, I guess, showing and demonstrating that you're fabulous, but really speaking the
Yeah.
language of that event planner's needs?
Mhm.
I love that you said that. There's a huge difference, especially when you're stepping into the corporate training territory, is you're not speaking in your advertising and your promotions to the audience you're actually going to be in front of. You're speaking to the person whose job is going to be put on the line
Yes.
for choosing you over the 20 other people that they could have chosen. So let's dive into that more.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So whenever somebody comes to your website, and we've all heard this in like general marketing, any kind of thing, is that somebody needs to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
I believe that before someone scrolls, they should know, like, and trust you right away. So if it's with your photography, show you on stage being yourself. Now, if you have a calm demeanor, show that. If you are jumping up and down and making everybody clap, show that. Show the experience of working with you right away. and then be really clear on the text of what problem you solve, because that's what's going to catch someone's eye and make them want to keep scrolling. And then trust kind of is built into all of this. So if you do photos of you on stage, or a lot of people like to do the featured by logos or trusted by logos right before they even scroll, I think that's a good place to start when it comes to the website. And how you can, maybe fix your website is if you go on your website and before scrolling, if your name is the biggest thing on the screen, we need to take that off, because your name isn't the most important thing at this moment. Like what your problem that you solve is. And so I see people that are DIY websites and it's just their name really big. And that's the instant, I think I'm fabulous kind of energy that you're giving off, and not, I want to help you solve your problems. So I think that's a big part of it. So the know, like, and trust. And then I like to, the next part of the website, really drill down into kind of the pain points that someone's feeling, so that you can instantly say, like, I know how you're feeling, and not just, here's me, here's why I'm amazing. Again, it's more of like, again, more like you, and then introduce yourself. And it's kind of like the Donald Miller story brand type of thing, where you're talking about the other person, and then you introduce yourself as the guide. So it's kind of that same structure of, let's talk about the problem. Let's make sure that you're knowledgeable in their field, in their area, and then say, by the way, here's who I am. And still, that here's who I am should technically be about the other person and not you yet.
Right. Well, number one, they don't know that they care until they know that they care. Right.
Yeah.
And they're not going to care. Sorry. It's just the way the world goes, until they know what you can do for them. So you establish that up front. I love that. That's your approach to the
and first
websites
impressions, right? Like, we're all human. We all make first impressions. We might say we don't, but we do. It's part of our brain. And so if somebody walked in the room, I'm instantly I have something that I'm already thinking about them. And so when we're on a website, you have the same half second less in order to make that first impression.
So in the age of AI, of tech, easy to access tech, there are a lot of speakers out there who kind of take their press kit that they might have gotten done professionally, and let's say their demo reel that they might have gotten done professionally, and they get some sort of template and an inexpensive platform. They kind of throw it all on there. What are some of the biggest mistakes that they are making? Because there are going to be some DIYers. Maybe they're not making those $10,000, $15,000 checks yet. Maybe they're still figuring out their brand. So they don't want to put a lot of money into creating this persona that isn't fully fleshed out. What are some of the biggest mistakes that they're making? And at what stage should they seriously think about investing in a solid website?
Yeah, I actually don't recommend that someone just starting out gets a professional website, because I think you need to have proof of concept first. And you might get on a stage and it might not work. It might just simply, you realize maybe you don't want to talk about that, or you realize, hey, I can drill in on this part that went really well and go deeper into that. And so I like people to have worked and DIY'd their website, first of all, because then they actually understand how much work it is that goes into a website. But they start to know what makes them different and what makes them unique. And so if somebody was just starting out, some of the mistakes I see is they're speaking to everyone about everything, right? The constant I speak about leadership thing. And I don't know if you're going to speak about leadership to my group how I want you to. And then the other thing is, like, I think people sometimes are really secretive about their intellectual property and they're hiding it. And so I'll see if somebody has a description of their keynote, which is great. I like a productized keynote or thought that you have that you are sharing, and not just like, I speak about leadership, but I have this process that's unique to me. I like to put that on the website. And I had a client actually fight me a little bit on this. And he was like, I don't want to put my frameworks on my website because I don't want people to steal it. And I'm like, well, frameworks without context, really, like, it doesn't do anything anyways. And I said, just trust me on this. Like, if you, after a month, feel uncomfortable with this framework being online, we'll take it off. Cool. Like, no questions asked. He called me in 24 hours and said he had already gotten booked because somebody looked at the framework and said, I want that. They didn't even look at the keynote description or anything. They said, I want that framework. And so I was like, and so within 24 hours, it really just proved that if you put out your knowledge and just like naturally show that you have a point of view, I think it can do wonders for your site, and not just saying, I'll speak about leadership or I'll speak about whatever it is. It can really set you apart.
Okay, so much goodness there. I want to unpack it. Number one, we didn't even compare our notes, but
No, we did not.
You are singing my song. I love that you talk about don't build it and they will come, right?
Yeah.
That create that proof of concept. Every talk that you give, every panel you sit on, you're collecting data, not just on your audience. What are they leaning into? What are they phasing out from? But also yourself. What is your superpower? What do you love? What lights you up? Well, you think you know, but you really don't know. So a lot of speakers will go out there and spend a lot of money on a website, on a speaker reel, on a press kit, all of those things. And they build it, right? And they just think those engagements are going to come. And it's the backwards, right,
Yeah.
way of doing it, because you don't know until you know. Right? They
Mhm.
don't know until they know. You don't know until you know. So I love that you bring that to the table. Get that brand down solid. Of course, have a presence,
Yeah.
and not a confused presence. Whatever your LinkedIn profile is saying,
Mhm.
everything else needs to be speaking that. So do that deeper work. And if you haven't done that deeper work, come and see me,
Yes.
so I can get that brand down, and then go see Kristin to get the site that speaks the brand, right? Because a confused mind doesn't buy. A confused
Exactly.
event planner is not going to call you. They're going to pass you up and go
Mhm.
to somebody who knows what their unique identity is. And you're not going to know that, right? You're going to think you know that, but you're
Mhm.
not going to know that right off the bat. So dumping a couple $1,000s or more, right, into those, the website alone, and then the
Mhm.
other speaker assets you're kind of building on top of that, is counterproductive and almost makes speakers, I think, do you find this, Kristin, makes speakers, once they've made that investment, feel like they've got to fit into that picture, that
Mhm.
mold, instead of really giving themselves the freedom to discover their unique value proposition in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see this with groups that are coaching speakers as well, that sometimes they all come out of that coaching experience looking a little similar. And
Hmm.
then they start to spread their wings, and then they start to get a little bit more reps and actually, talking to people and figuring out what really resonated with somebody. And then I see them flourish. And
Yeah.
so, and in the being concise and clear about something is just so important. So I'm just going to echo you on this. Like the LinkedIn presence about things. If you're talking about something on LinkedIn and you're saying, you're putting out just thought content. It doesn't even have to be like, I'm the master at this. You're putting out just, here are my thoughts, here are my opinions about this topic. And then if someone goes to your website and they see it's really cohesive, that builds so much trust. So it either builds trust or it takes away. If you're on LinkedIn talking about, one subject, and then someone goes to your website and they're like, wait, is this what they talk about? Or am I just on another LinkedIn? Am I on a different profile
I'm in the
here?
right place with the right person.
Right. Like, it comes down to visuals as well. Like using the same kind of, branding or photos is something that if you just make that journey for a meeting planner, just trust building, and their risk just goes away. It does everything for a meeting planner. So just echoing what you said about yeah, make sure your online presence is buttoned up together, and making sure that you're clear on what you do and the value that you're bringing.
So if I'm hearing you right, one of the biggest mistakes you see as a professional website builder for speakers specifically is that they are more concerned with kind of boosting up their image, boosting up themselves, than letting that event manager or that corporate director
Mhm.
know that your job is secure with me, right? You will be a superhero because you'll bring these solutions
Yeah.
into your event or into your organization by choosing me over the dozens of other people that they can choose. That's that number one goal,
Mhm.
is not to show how great you are, but really to show how great you are at solving their problem that's going to give them job security.
Yes. And that's a big topic right now in the speaking industry. So I was just at the National Speakers Association conference, and there was a whole panel, and they were talking about how meeting planners have smaller budgets. We all know that. And so their risk tolerance is like they want to make sure that they're bringing in somebody that can really do it. And it's like some conferences that used to have maybe 5 speakers are only getting 2 now because of budget. So those spots, they have to be sure of you, know, like, and trust you right away. They have to be sure about it. Otherwise, they're just going to keep going to the next person. And sometimes they work with bureaus and they say, you know, who can I trust? You want to obviously be the person that someone says, hey, you can trust this person. I know they're going to make your event amazing. And that all comes down to whenever you hear someone's name, what are you going to do? You're going to look them up on LinkedIn or on their website and make sure that they are right for you.
Let's dive a little bit more into what might feel like a contradiction, but it's not. It's that muddy area that doesn't need to be muddy. We got to clear it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand, you and me are saying, speak to the person whose job is on the line to bring you in over other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of that coin with the client that you talked into sharing his content and he got the gig, right? So when you're sharing your content, you're really talking to the people who would be in the audience. So I'm going to give a couple of thoughts I have, and then I would like to just hear how you tie that, how you create that bridge over those muddy waters, right? It should be clear. Number one, I just want to speak to this. If you're operating in a law of scarcity, people smell that miles and miles and miles away, and you are going to lose engagements, right? If you're worried about somebody taking your IP, do not be a speaker, do not be an author, do not be a thought leader, right? People can take your IP. You, Kristin, could get onto a stage. We could have word for word the same content. Some people are going to receive that content from you and not from me, and vice versa, right? It's don't worry about that.
Yeah.
If you're worried about that, you're in the wrong space. Have that law of abundance. Just understand that you can give every piece of your IP away and it will only grow your demand. Do not hold tightly to your chest your IP, because if you don't get it out there freely and generously, you're going to suffer. And so are those people that need those solutions. They're going to suffer as well. A couple quick illustrations for that is, I mean, just look at Anthony Robbins. You know what you're going to get when you go to his, but yet people go year after year after year, right? To do the karate chop on the board and to walk on the hot coals and to kumbaya together. They're not looking for, somebody could steal all of his IP. And they have,
I'm
right?
sure
And it
there
has,
are many speakers out there that do the exact same schedule for a conference.
But it's not him. And so we're creating that unique brand that is you. Give freely. There's a thought leader out there named Jeff Walker. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars to have him walk me through his process. Yet every single year, he does this like 2-week launch where step by step live, he is giving you for free, every part of his process. Why have I spent tens of thousands of dollars? It's because, I can get the information, but there's nuances along the way. I want to do it right. I want to cut a check for speed. Yeah, I'm different, right? And so in all those masses that are going to go there for that free content, there's going to be that cream that rises to the top. And that's what you care about. And that's the same with these event planners and your would-be audiences. Give abundantly, give generously, don't hold back. People smell that miles away, and you're harming yourself, you're harming your message, and you're harming the people that could have maybe grabbed a little something and it could have changed their lives. And then they get to the place where then maybe they'll take that next step with you. So I wanted to just address that because you brought it up and that was so brilliant. It's a really important piece of information. Talking about the NSA, I spoke with a would-be client, but I actually wound up rejecting her, only because, not because she's a well-known name and she's a fabulous speaker, but she actually quit one of those major speaker agencies or organizations because they didn't help her protect her IP. Somebody stole her IP from one of those organizations, and they didn't kick the other person out. And I'm like, number one, it's the biggest form of compliment. Number two, if you're confident in the way that you deliver, there's plenty for everyone, right? It's all good. Yeah, it's a bummer. You worked hard to create that. It's slimy, but that slimy person who's a thief isn't going to get very far. They might make a few bucks, right, but who cares?
Yeah.
Just
I
focus.
actually had people steal my full website designs. Like they've
Wow.
literally said they've come to me. They've found out maybe the investment that it is to work with me, my process, or whatever it is. And I've seen them post their website a month later, say, "Oh, I got a new website." And it is section by section, even with colors, the same exact website that I have done for somebody else who has had a lot of results. And I'm telling you, I have not seen that person honestly since. Like,
No.
I still follow them, but I don't see them anywhere. I don't see them rising to, the levels of success or whatever, the person that they copied the website from on. So it happens everywhere, but the authenticity part of it is going to rise, I
People
feel.
can see right through that, right? And if you're being modeled after, it means you're getting something right. So it might be, to look, it's all about attitude, right? Look
Oh,
at it as good,
yeah.
not as a bad thing. I think we get so caught up in fear that we actually stifle ourselves in our careers. And then, so let's talk about the contradiction. How do we create that bridge, Kristin, between we're really speaking to the decision maker when we create these outbound promotional pieces, right? And these assets.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do want that interaction from the end user so that they can see, oh gosh, yeah, look at that LinkedIn profile. She's getting all kinds of hits on it. She's getting engaging conversations. People are really resonating with what she or he brings to the table. So how do you create a website? And I believe that the website should speak the same language as the press kit, should speak the same language as your LinkedIn. So all of those pieces, how do they communicate to the decision maker without alienating your actual audience, and vice versa? How do you do that?
Yeah. So I think there are three things that came to mind whenever you were just saying that. And that's what I was like scribbling. So the first thing is you can set the scene, right? So I can say, hey, I mean, this is super direct and I wouldn't say it like this, but hey, meeting planner, your people are having, this issue or something. And so on a website, I've put, Kristin has been where your people are. And I think if you measure the you versus your on your website, you'll know who you're talking to. Because if I say you are going to develop these skills versus your group is going to develop these skills, it's pretty much the same sentence, but I'm talking directly to somebody and then they're feeling like, oh, I do want my people to have that. And then to also talk about results as well is, you are going to build leadership skills. Cool. So you can get a job. Or your group can build these skills so that they will go on and work for whoever. Can you tell I've worked in the leadership space a lot? I feel like I keep bringing this up. But the you versus your, if you measure out those, I think you'll know who you're talking to. And the other thing is,
let me just, before we go on,
yeah,
you want more yous or you want more yours? You want more yous?
I personally like yours.
Oh, you like yours. Okay.
I like yours on a website because our meeting planners are looking at the website. The people that are in the crowd usually are not looking at your website.
I'm following. Okay. So your people, but then if I am that you, I'm resonating right away.
And you can, because you can tell stories throughout everything. I think we all know that stories are the thing that sells these days. And, especially, and then like on LinkedIn, you can tell stories about, I was working with a person and this is the success that they got. A meeting planner is still going to be like, oh, I like that. But you're still talking to the person, or you're still, telling a story about maybe somebody that would be in your audience and not running outside, making sure meal counts are right. So I think there's definitely a way to speak to both, but on a website, I personally like yours when it comes to some of those spots of like, let's bring this to your group, like calls to action. I think
Gotcha.
who's making the action is our meeting planner. So let's talk to them directly when it comes to those sections of a website. And it can shift a little bit. It's just try to say your website out loud and see if it sounds right. Try to read your website to somebody. And if it makes sense, then you're on the right path.
Okay, brilliant. I love this. So basically, you're addressing one, but speaking to both
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're doing. Okay. And if you know your audience and you know yourself, you know your archetype, you, right? And
Mhm.
and your flair, your way of
Yes.
communicating and delivering, and you really intimately know who your best fit people are.
Mhm.
I used to have this advice. Now I've got this advice. The advice I used to have was get your, right fit audience member, find a picture of them, the person that represents them, maybe
Mm.
somebody you've actually helped, and
Mhm.
put it on the other side of your camera.
Yeah.
Now I say, have that right fit decision maker. They're the one that you're mostly going to talk to about the other guy, right? So you have
Mhm.
two pictures
Yeah. Yeah.
on your screen, or at least emblazoned in your mind. Because when you're talking to, you said this earlier, and it's so important, critical as well. You're not talking to everyone.
No.
You're talking to one person. You want somebody to really truly believe that you understand them to a depth that you are not a gamble at all. You understand their needs, you understand what they're going through, and you have the solution for them.
Yeah.
You're the gift, right? It's not like you're begging for them to, you, it's backwards, right? You're not auditioning for them. You're assessing whether or not they're a good fit for your solution.
Mhm.
So a bit different there.
And that goes to your abundance mindset again, right? Like
Yeah.
if we can't all think that we're all right for every single stage. So you know what stages you're right for. Like why not hone in and try to get more of those instead of thinking that you have to be right for everybody. It's just
Right.
there's
You're right for everybody. You're right
I've
for
niched
nobody.
down as much as I can in the web design space because I was like, I know who I can help because I have the background of who I can help. My first website was for a forklift repair person. Like, and let me tell you, it was really difficult to do. But then the moment I started working with speakers, I was like, wait a minute, I know what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a meeting planner page or a press kit. And so I wanted these things. And so I think when it comes back to who we're speaking to, you can picture that person and it will make everything much easier, whether you're writing your website, choosing what pictures, or creating content on LinkedIn in order to get people to the website.
Okay, brilliant. And I really believe that speakers think that they have different audiences, but if they really hone
Mhm.
down, they
Mhm.
realize that they really just have one core audience, and the
Yeah.
other audiences will resonate enough to step into their picture. But they really should be speaking to that core at all times. So let's
Yeah.
talk about your approach to those speakers that come to you who they say they serve multiple audiences. How can their website speak clearly? How can they speak clearly to that core?
Yeah. I I love this because back when I was hiring speakers, there was somebody that reached out to me on LinkedIn and he was perfect. He checked every box we wanted of like we had talked about what we wanted for a big conference for a keynote speaker. He was everything. And he was just a cold DM on LinkedIn to me. We started talking and I was like, this guy's awesome. First meeting for the event, I come in, I'm like, you guys, I found the keynote speaker. This is his name. And then I started saying why he was amazing, and nobody was listening to me because they all were doing exactly what you would do if you were sitting in a meeting. They were Googling his name, they went to his website, and it was and they ultimately said no, even though they had someone in the room vouching for this person, but his website was more of a resume than anything. It was more about him, but it was so broad that we weren't sure he was right for our group. And so on the flip side of this, I've never forgotten that. I've just always remembered that person, and I know still to this day he'd be the perfect speaker for that group that I was hiring for. But he just is super super broad and generic on his website when I know he's got like the stuff. On the other hand, I have a client that was really broad, and I was like, can we drill this down? Can we say you only speak to collegiate athletes. Like, let's start there and see what happens. And now, like, he doesn't just speak to collegiate athletes. That's probably his least booked gig, but he started somewhere, got known, and then like word just started like traveling of like, you got to get this guy. This guy needs to be talking to college, like to professional teams, and he's speaking on like the biggest stages now because he was like, okay, I'm not just going to talk about this one big thing. I'm going to drill down. And on a website, what we did was we had 2 pages because he always knew he wanted to speak to corporate. He's like, I know that's where bigger checks are than, but my heart's over here. So we made 2 separate pages on his website, and we spoke to 2 different audiences. They were pretty
Clearly,
much
right? You weren't trying
clearly.
to
Oh,
hodgepodge
there
that
was
on.
no muddy water on this. It was like, your college athletes will learn this, this, and this. It pairs great with after you have a big loss, or you are starting of the season. Like, these are words and phrases that we would never say to a corporate audience. But then we put the same speech on a corporate page, and it was, your team is going to do this. And communication, right, is a big thing for both, but it was your team, or like your athletes, your team versus your organization or your group. And so that's how I do it on a website, is if our audiences are very different and you do have 2 spaces that you're kind of walking between, we need to keep those on different pages for sure. And then maybe the homepage, we're drilling into the problem and the solution a lot more. And then kind of, have them choose their own adventure and say, like, how can I help you as a college group versus a corporate group? If you are straddling those 2 lines, I'd love to know if you're like, no, pick one or not.
I actually no, I love that approach, and it's really powerful. So you started off with him very
Yeah.
focused, right? Collegiate, and we know there's not a lot of money in that.
No.
There's some money in there, little spurts of money in there,
But the
but if you
network
want
is
this,
very strong. That's the
right?
thing. It was, I can get
Yes.
into this industry.
So from there, he was able to grow, but it wasn't the confused message going out because he's trying to capture it all at
Mm-hmm.
once. Very clear website. I'm assuming focused in on communication.
Oh yeah.
And then if you are, collegiate decision maker, click here. If you are a
Corporate
corporation
or
looking
looking for a
for
small
better
team.
internal communications, click here, right? And then you can speak specifically. No,
Mm-hmm.
that approach is fine. It is advanced, so I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it is
I wouldn't
advanced.
say do it
Uh-huh.
on your own. Get into a conversation with Kristin, because it can confuse the message. It has to be
Mhm.
done professionally and done right.
Yeah, because
I
he
have
got
a
known for something,
Yeah.
and then he was able to introduce that new audience. And I think if we all are trying to get hired by everybody, again, it's not going to work. We're not relating to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to speak to something you and I were talking about off camera here in a
Mhm.
moment, but I know at this stage of the SpeakPact show, there are people out there who are already like, well, how do I get a hold of Kristin? Where is she? How do I connect? So where do you like to be found, Kristin?
I'm a web designer. I got to tell you, I have a website.
You
So,
better.
yeah, crashdesign.co is where you can check out portfolio, services, all of those things. But honestly, I love people to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have always been on LinkedIn since I graduated, like since I was in college, and so that's just been my favorite social media for sure. So, Kristin Adkins, Kristin is Kristin.
And Adkins,
And
Adkins,
yeah.
Kristin Adkins. And it's crash, like crash
Yeah,
into
like if
me,
you were
right?
gonna crash into something. 'Cause I don't do subtle. So
And designs is plural. So crash designs.
it's one. It's
Oh, one. Okay. Singular.
crashdesign.co. And it's
Dot co.
.co, not .com. Side note for anybody that doesn't have a website yet, go get your name in a domain if you can. I personally couldn't, and so I will forever be sad about that. But go get your name
Even
for
if you're
your
not ready,
URL.
get the URL. Doesn't
You're
mean
not rather
start the.
anybody listening to this. Go purchase your name as a domain. It is going to be like $10 for your first year, and then 20 after that. Please have that.
So as we wrap, a couple things I'd like to do. Number one, I have one last question or conversation I'd like to have quickly, and then we have that signature question at the end. I'm going to have you challenge my audience. So, number one, we were talking about a speaker that you had who had a website. He's a six-figure speaker, so he's getting his
Mhm.
voice out there. He had a really great career, but he was very early six figures, right? And within re tightening up his website, I don't know if you did a complete redesign or if you
Yes.
tightened
Mhm.
up what he had. He within a certain span of time became a mid six figure speaker, just I'm assuming just on that tweak alone. So walk us through that process. How did you take an established speaker who
Mhm.
had his speaker assets, had his website, was doing okay?
Yeah.
Six figures is what a lot of speakers would love to get to.
Mhm.
But he was stuck right there in the early six figures and couldn't really bust past that. Let's talk about that story a little bit.
So he was getting hired because people were telling other people, "Hey, this guy is great." And then they would take their friend or their whoever's word for it and hire him, and they'd find out he was great. But without a website that was really selling him, he was stuck in the only rehire, like only referral spot. And so whenever we redid his website, so he was again, he was leadership all across the board. And what I did was I interviewed him and I was like, let me just ask you some questions. And so I just had him talk to me for about an hour. And I was like, is this who you really want to talk to? And it was like, yeah, I mean, I really like this group. I'm like, are you speaking to any groups you don't like right now? And he's like, yeah, kind of. There's these people, they keep hiring me. I really don't, the money is not there and any of that. And he's like, it's not fulfilling. And so just in this interview with him, I was able to change his copy on his website. We redid the entire design. It was a complete redesign of burn the thing down, build it right back up. And yeah, he went from early six figures and that was year over year, and all of a sudden he was at 500K 18 months after we launched. And it was just so about being clear about it. And again, I was telling him, I'm like, just trust me on this, just trust
Mm-hmm.
me. This is what your meeting planner, they want to be called out, they want to know that you're talking to them. And yeah, he made that switch, and now I need to reconnect with him and ask him where he's at right now,
Only
because that
growing
was,
from there. Well, and I
yeah.
like too that you said 18 months. It wasn't a month. It wasn't 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Speakers tend to get antsy at 6 months. Whoa, nothing's happening. You were a total failure.
Right.
Like,
That's when you got to get on LinkedIn and start really sharing your idea, because, and you've mentioned this before, websites are not a build it and they will come. There are like thousands of websites made every single day. Like it's an abundance. So you have to drive people to it. And there are different, experts and agencies and different marketing methods in order to do that. But if you do have that website that's super just showing you off in the best way, as in showing you off as a problem solver, that is where the shift can happen.
oh, so much goodness. All right. So as we wrap, Kristin, what is one thing that speakers can begin doing right now that will help you, right? So something that they can be doing, they can implement today even, that when they do get to the place where they want to start building out or tightening up, maybe they already have their speaker assets, tightening up their assets so just to take them to that next milestone. Can you
Mhm.
give our SpeakPact audience a challenge that they can go out and implement today?
Ooh. So I'm not going to make this design related, but the one thing they should be doing, I would say, is find that dream stage that you want to be on and figure out who books those speakers and see if you can interview them. Have a no like pitch conversation and just say, can I talk to you a little bit about why you chose a speaker? Or, say, I saw you had this speaker on your stage. Can you just tell me like what went into that decision? And I think getting those answers, record this conversation and use the words that they use on your website, you will immediately start attracting similar meeting planners. And like I did this when I was starting my career as a web designer for speakers. I was interviewing speakers and I said, this is a no pitch conversation. I simply just want to know why you do these things. And it has led me everywhere.
Such great advice. Do this, my people. This is good stuff.
Find
And if you
somebody
aren't
that you would love to
sure,
hire
Yeah. And if you aren't sure what that dream stage is, then I say, figure out where your heroes are speaking. And
Yeah.
those should be your dream stages,
You can't
right?
hit a
So
target that you don't know where it's at.
yeah, that's that buckshot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're in the country, we have guns, and my husband gets me the buckshot because hopefully if I shoot, something's going to get hit.
Right.
But you really want that zeroed in
Yeah.
target, because then you'll hit it every time.
Mhm.
And when you hit that, there's ripple effects. Don't worry, that other brilliance that you have will still be able to be utilized. But you really want that that you do want that laser sharp focus,
Mhm.
and you can only get that by speaking to that one core need, that one core solution. Get known for that, and just like your collegiate speaker, then the demand comes,
Yeah.
right? You've got that proven process, you've got that third party validation, and you
Mhm.
also understand yourself and your audience on a whole new plane.
Yeah.
Such goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristin. It's been a value packed quick conversation. I know you and I both have some
I
hard
know, I feel
stop.
like we should talk for, like, hours now. I'm like, "Oh,
We
there's so many things."
might have to have a part two, because this is a very important, um, highly overlooked space, right?
Yeah.
You can have a website, or you could have a booking asset, like you call it, and those are
Mhm.
two very different things,
Yeah.
and they're very critical. And same with the LinkedIn page. I know speakers
Mhm.
who, um, 20 to 30%, sometimes even more, of their engagements come from their dialed in LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
So if you have one, you can have the other, right? You just need to, it's that groundwork that gets kind of skipped over.
Mhm.
Um, Anybody can hire a web designer, but I love your approach that you get to know who your speaker is first. You have that long,
Yes.
detailed conversation, and you build on value proposition versus on resume. This is brilliant.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Antoniette.
And we know that you, our beautiful SpeakPact audience, have gotten value out of this show. So why don't you post it forward? If you got value, that means those people in your circle will also get value. So share some flowers with us and them by posting this episode forward. And for now, we will say ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the SpeakPact podcast. To become a recommended speaker of Antoniette's WPC speaker agency, or you are a host or planner looking for a dynamic expert in optimized performance, Antoniette would like to personally meet with you. Secure a time with her at speakerbooker.com. Again, that is speakerbooker.com. It all begins with a vision, a voice, and a pact to impact. Join the SpeakPact movement by joining our new private Facebook group at the link in our show notes. Find us on nearly every social media platform at One Antoniette. That's number 1, ANTONIETTE, or simply hashtag SpeakPact.